I guess not that people outside of Israel won't. I don't know, but then you can watch it on Sunday. We'll see. Listen, maybe we'll see. I mean, by me, it's not a holiday, so maybe I'll give a half of a class on Wednesday. I have a class on Wednesday, and then people can watch it if they want to. But listen, the majority of people that watch the classes are watching it after I give the classes. So there's 20, sometimes 30, sometimes 100. And there's one, once I'm okay. We make an Erev Tavshilin. We don't make an Erev Tavshilin this year. Erev Tavshilin is only when the Sukkot falls right before Shabbat. And you want to prepare on Sukkot for Shabbat, so you make an Erev Tavshilin. Okay, everybody uses only 2 aravot, but you can use as many hadassim as you want. Hadassim. Some people make 3 is the minimum. Hadassim. We make a point of binding the lulav and the sukkah in the sukkah right before Yom Tov. We put 2 rings on the lulav itself, and then cover them over the hadassim and the ravot, and even the top ring, at least somewhat. And then there's 3 rings we use to bind the hadassim and the aravos to the lulav. These 3 rings are to be within 1 handbreadth. Let me just show you this picture over here. Let's see, maybe we have a picture of Chabad. See, now Chabad doesn't do this. Chabad doesn't use this thing like this. How does Chabad, what does Chabad yes do? What do we yes do? Well, let's see. So, hold on. How do we do it in Chabad? Do we have a picture? Here, see, here we have in Chabad. We do it like this. On Chabad, we put 3 rings on it. Underneath here, you can't see it, but they're covered over by 2 rings. The rings are just leaves from the lulav. They're just leaves that fell off or you pulled off. Right? That's how we do it. So we put 3 over here. They should be within 1 tefach. Some people try to put it on the bottom, but I guess that's not important. And then we have 2 rings that are hidden here. You can't see that. How many hadassim do you have? That's the hadassim. So some people say 3. Here we have 7, 10. I don't know over there. And the arava is in the back. You can't see it. There's only 2. You're only allowed to have 2, and 1 etrog. 1 etrog. And you hold the lulav in your right hand and the etrog in your left hand, and you make a blessing. On the first day, you make a blessing HaYom also on the 2 of them. You see, ask someone how to do it. All right. That is today. Let's do tomorrow. When giving the lulav etrog to somebody else to say a blessing, let's say the 2 people are together or you're loaning it to somebody, that person does it, you have to say explicitly, this is a gift on condition that you give it back to me, especially on the first day. The law is that you have to take your own lulav and etrog. You can't take somebody else's. Lakachtem lochem. You have to take your own. And so what if you don't have one? So someone else can give you one. They can give you one. In fact, someone else can loan you one. Right? Let's say the person doesn't want to give it to you, but if I loan to somebody, then a loan is considered to be yours. As long as you have it, it's yours. But you have to give it as a loan on the condition that you give it back to me. You have to give it as a loan. Then it has to be yours. I give it to the other person, but on the condition that he gives it back to me. This is a value good for the one who gives it and for the one who receives it. My father instructed that one should start saying Shechianu with the lulav in one hand and the etrog in the other. Let's see if he has the notes over here. Here we go. Right. You hold them separately, and then you put them together. You say Shechianu, and then you put them together and make the blessing. The verse is Ki Amarti, it says, it's not important. During the day, the blessing of Leishe Besukkah is said also in Kiddush, not after the Amotzi. After you say Kiddush, then you say Leishe Besukkah, even in the daytime. Every time you sit in a sukkah, and you can go to somebody else's sukkah and you eat mazonot or something like that, you eat what is it? Cakes or something like that, then you make the blessing on sitting in a sukkah. You can do it 100 times a day if you want to. You have to go to different sukkahs each time. Okay, how do we know the congregants and the blessing of the Kohanim? As the Kohanim, on the second day, you move your head one way or the other. Anyway, because the Alter Rebbe would take his grandson, the Tzemach Tzedek, under his tallit, and he would see what the crowd does when the Kohanim give the blessing. You have to move your heads commensurate with how the Kohanim move their hands, the Kohanim when they bless. Okay. Let us go. That is tomorrow. Let's do the day after tomorrow. This is going to be Wednesday. By you, outside of Israel, it is a holiday. But Tzemach Tzedek said, I heard from my grandfather for the sixth time, the Maimer, Ush'avtem Mayim B'Sasam. That's what we just finished learning. Right? That's what we just finished learning in the Likutei Torah. We're sort of halfway through. And the experience was like it says in the Talmud, from there they drew Holy Spirit. It says Jonah, the prophet Jonah, received Ruach HaKodesh. He received divine inspiration. He became a prophet from his joy at dancing in the water drawing ceremony. There, that's where we received the gift of prophetic revelation. We received, it says, the people that danced in the joy, rejoicing, they received revelation without end. Any of you who live in New York, I advise you in the intermediate days to go to Crown Heights. And there they danced, I don't know, I would estimate it's not less than, let's say, 5,000 people, I think. I don't know. A lot of people, 5,000 people. And they danced the whole entire night until 6 in the morning. Whole entire night. I think they started 12 midnight. They danced 12, everyone's dancing in the streets. There's non-Jews that come and dance, and the blacks dance. Everybody dances. They're all dancing. It's amazing to see. That'll be finally.
You saw non-Jews dancing there?
Yeah, sure. Sometimes usually they just stand on the outside, but once in a while they come individuals, not usually groups, but individuals come. Everybody's happy, it's exactly the opposite. Everybody's happy to see these people dancing, But the way the boys dance, it's just, everybody's just sweating and just totally knocked out, knocked out. Dance the whole night, the whole entire night, 6 hours, nonstop. Everybody's dancing. Yeah, there are non-Jews, sure, they're coming to dance. I'll tell you a story, just 1 second. It says, we received the revelation that the end will be when Moshiach comes. Well, the end is in the beginning. In other words, when Moshiach comes, then everyone will have Ruach HaKodesh. Everyone will have a spirit. 1 year, usually when there's the dancing over there, so I go around, I dance like everybody else, but I also go around and talk to the policemen, because there's a lot of policemen over there. And I ask them if they know what's going on, what they were celebrating. And they say, well, no, we're just assigned here. So I'll say, okay, I'll give you 3 minutes free explanation what's going on in the holiday. So they all smile. And I say, when God took the Jews out of Egypt, so you heard about that? They say, yeah. So he surrounded them with these clouds of glory, and that made them protected them. And that shows that God is with everybody. Nobody's ever alone. So they like that. Everyone likes it. And the police like it and say, that's why we're dancing. We've been doing this for over 3,300 years, dancing. Really? Yeah, dancing. That's the truth. So one time I was standing next to one policeman, and he was like an Irish guy, a white guy. And we were standing and we were talking. And he said that he's, I was just talking to him. I said the same thing that I said to everybody else. And he said, I've been to this before. That's the first time I really had an explanation. And he said, I want to tell you something. He said, I'm assigned to, crowds, to big crowds. He was already, an older guy. I guess he was like in his 50s. It wasn't that old. And he said, I've never seen anything really like this. He said, I've been here a few years. I said, I've never really seen anything like this. There's always, big groups, but anything like this. And he turned to me and he said, look at the love, he said. Look at the love. It brought tears to my eyes. He was really serious, and maybe an Irish guy or something like that. I don't remember. I looked at his name tag, but definitely was not Jewish. And he said, look at the love. And suddenly I realized what he meant. Everybody, they're all dancing and they're knocking into each other, but they're not like, knocking into each other in an aggressive way. They're just dancing and they're happy and everybody dances with everybody else. And there's groups, and then all of the groups break up and they make new groups and everybody gets into the group, and then there's changes and everything that changes, and nobody's like left out, or nobody feels, how do you say, rejected, and everybody is accepted. It's really quite amazing. It really is quite amazing. It's just there's nothing like it. I remember he said it just really stuck in my mind. He said, "Look at the love." He said, and he doesn't know me for anybody. It's just a guy. I have nothing in common with him except we're both human beings or with creations of God. Amazing. It really is quite amazing. Okay, now story. Am I going to say a story today? Some people like